You're just making a clumsy excuse to get Wayne back, aren't you? If you want to be with him that badly, feel free to come. I'll hire you and make you work hard at my place, so if you don't mind being a slave, I'll give you the new address. How much can this woman misunderstand and get carried away all by herself? There's no point in arguing any further, so I might as well hint at the truth soon. Then it's fine to divorce your unemployed husband. I'm busy with work, so you take care of him from now on. You, who doesn't even know what happened to Wayne's company, are such an ignorant person? Still talking tough, huh? You loser. Janet is still misunderstanding, but she'll understand eventually that she has now made the wrong choice. Anyway, I've decided to divorce Wayne since he kept his unemployment a secret and even cheated on me. However, fighting Wayne and his associates alone seems disadvantageous. So, I thought of seeking help from someone reliable and called a person. My name is Gina Wagner, a 43-year-old housewife. During my single days, I worked for 15 years as a sales clerk in a men's clothing store. The executive vice president of a wholesale company, which had dealings with the store, is now my husband, Wayne. At first, I thought he was a man of few words, even when we met at work. But gradually we got to know each other and he started inviting me out to a cafe. Apparently, he had taken a liking to me in secret. Wayne is the same age as me, and his father owns the wholesale company. He's supposed to take over his father's business and become the president in the future. One day, after we had met several times, Wayne said, If it's all right with you, would you consider dating me with marriage in mind? When Wayne asked me that, I felt like I was on top of the world. However, Wayne's father was strongly opposed. I had lost my mother when I was young and my father, who raised me, had already passed away. Therefore, he argued that my family background was not suitable. He insisted that someone like me could not possibly be a fit wife for the next president. But Wayne retorted to that. Even Dad, you divorced Mom, didn't you? Because of that, Mom struggled and passed away in her 60s. So, you have no right to criticize my choice of a marriage partner. Hearing that, Wayne's father suddenly fell silent, and he no longer opposed our marriage. I was also shocked when I first heard this fact. No wonder our surnames are different. After that, I heard from Wayne how, after his parents divorced, he and his mother had supported each other through life. He had struggled quite a bit. That's why he said he wanted to make his spouse happy. Hearing his story, I thought to myself, this is a man who will cherish me all his life. I decided in my heart to follow him. Then, at the age of 37, we got married. I had dreamed of a sweet married life with Wayne, and I felt happier than anyone else. But reality did not work out that way. At Wayne's request, I quit my job upon marriage and devoted myself to the household. I woke up early in the morning and prepared meals with balanced nutrition. After seeing Wayne off, I would do the laundry and cleaning. I managed all the household chores perfectly. I thought if I worked hard, he would surely be pleased. While thinking so, I spent fulfilling days. However, Wayne, initially kind and cheerful, gradually became less talkative as the years passed. By the third year, he acted as if a wife doing household chores was a given. And he began to order me around dismissively. Hey, could you get the newspaper? And hey, there's still dust on top of the dresser. Are you cleaning properly? That was just the beginning. When he said he wanted to rearrange the room, normally, such heavy furniture would require a man's help, but he ordered me to move everything. By the way, I am only 5 feet tall and not particularly strong. Wayne, more than 7 inches taller and much sturdier than me, just thought about the room's layout. I couldn't stand it anymore and complained. Hey, don't make a small woman like me carry such heavy things. Isn't it men's work to do the heavy lifting? But no matter what I say, Wayne just sulks and retorts. What are you talking about? I'm the next president. It's ridiculous to make me do such hard labor. Carrying these heavy things is your role as a caretaker. So, a caretaker, huh? This is practically like being treated as a slave. 3 years into our marriage, I wonder how Wayne turned into such a husband. I pondered. Could it be because we still don't have children, and that frustrates him? I myself dream of a life with children. With that thought, I started visiting a gynecologist for checkups. I really wish Wayne would cooperate, but now is not the time to bring it up. For now, I learned that there is nothing particularly wrong with me. And since then, I have been trying to conceive. But no matter how long it takes, there are no signs of pregnancy. I thought it might be a good idea to consult Wayne about this. So I bravely brought up the topic of trying for a baby. However, what Wayne said in response was unbelievable. Huh? Trying for a baby? You still intend to have children at your age? What? It's not uncommon these days for women over 40 to have children. At my response, Wayne burst out laughing as if it was a joke. I've never heard such a thing. Just look around. Mothers with small children are mostly in their late 20s or mid-30s. Wait, where are you getting your information from? Surely, that's not just a scene from a drama, right? Indeed, Wayne has no children and no small kids in the family either. Therefore, he wouldn't have information about modern mothers with small children. If he has seen any, it's merely because he happened to notice that the mothers were young. Wayne speaks of 2 or 3 such cases as if they were common knowledge. Why is he so resistant to discussing trying for a baby? Curious about this, I asked him again. Well, besides that, don't you want children, Wayne? Huh? Children. I'm not really interested. I was speechless at his words. To think that he doesn't want children even though we are married. I couldn't believe Wayne's perspective and asked him again. Why? Shouldn't we have children if we're married? Look, even your father would be happy to have a successor. I tried to respect Wayne's position when I said that, but his reaction was tepid. Wayne remained silent for a while but then slowly began to speak. A successor. I actually never wanted to take over my father's company after. He separated from my mother. And I got married just because I was concerned about what others would think. The son of divorced parents might not be suited for marriage, right? That's what I didn't want people to think. What? Are you saying you married me just to save face because you were worried about what others would think? That's awful. Knowing his true feelings was a shock. Then Wayne suddenly raised his voice as if ignited. Shut up. What do you know? He yelled at me as if he was lashing out and then left the room. What does he expect me to understand in this situation? Since then, perhaps out of anger, Wayne has started buying his own food and has stopped contributing to the household expenses. I didn't know what to do, so I sought advice from my reliable aunt. My aunt, my mother's sister, has cherished me since I was little because I have no mother. My aunt, who has been focused on her career, is still working hard at 68 without having married. When I discussed my problems with her, she listened sympathetically. Oh my, that must have been tough. If Wayne doesn't want children, why don't you start working, Gina? It might be better than staying at home, it'll take your mind off things. Maybe my aunt was right. This became an opportunity for me to work at the clothing manufacturer that my aunt runs. When I told Wayne about it, he showed an indifferent face and responded. Anyway, your aunt's company, with a 60-plus-year-old president, must be a small place, and you'll probably just be a part-time worker there. Well, if it's just enough to earn your own keep, that's probably fine. Wayne's response, even looking down on my capable aunt, irritated me a bit, but I didn't talk back. After all, from now on, I just need to follow my aunt's example and devote myself to my job. Then, sometime after I started working, during a break, I was browsing the news on my smartphone when I came across shocking information. It turned out that Wayne's company had gone bankrupt. I thought about asking Wayne when I got home, but since I started working, he hardly spoke to me, so there was no opportunity to bring it up. Wayne had also not mentioned anything about his company. There was nothing I could do but leave it as it was. Since he hadn't been contributing to the living expenses anyway, it didn't affect me. Although Wayne said nothing about the company, he began to eat meals that I prepared at home. Probably because he was struggling with food expenses now that he had no income. This situation continued for about 2 or 3 years until one day, I received a call on my smartphone. I didn't recognize the number, but thinking it might be someone related to work, I answered.
Ah.
Gina, it's been a while. Do you know who this is? I suddenly heard an energetic woman's voice, but after thinking about it, it sounded vaguely familiar. Could it be Janet? Bingo. That's right. How have you been, Gina? You haven't changed your mobile number since before you were married, right? So I'm glad it connected. The caller was Janet, a close friend from high school. Janet was very serious during high school. But I went to university while she went to a community college. Janet became a working adult before me and somehow became more sophisticated over time. Janet's lifestyle became flashy, and she gradually drifted away from me. However, we were still friends who occasionally kept in touch until I got married. The sudden contact made me feel uneasy. Gina Wagner, it's been a while. You sound well, Janet. But what's up today? Then Janet, as if trying to gauge the situation, asked me. Actually, I'll be near your place for work in the next 2 or 3 days. So, I was wondering if I could stop by your house. I hesitated for a moment. Now that Wayne's company had gone bankrupt, I didn't know when he would be home. Just then, Wayne happened to pass by. Turning to look at him, he started saying, "Is someone visiting?" "I don't mind." Janet, hearing his voice over the phone, suddenly got excited. "Is that your husband? The one who's going to be the president? It's okay for me to visit then?" "I'm looking forward to it. I've always been curious about what the home of a future president and his wife would be like." Being so cheerfully requested, it was hard to say no. Wrapped up in Janet's pace, I agreed to have her visit our house the day after tomorrow in the afternoon. On the day, Janet arrived at our house with a curious expression. Although I thought Wayne would be out, he was inexplicably at home. Moreover, although he is usually uncommunicative with me, today he was smiling at the entrance. "Hi, you must be Janet, right? I met you once before the wedding. You brought a gift since you couldn't attend the ceremony. Oh my. You remember me? That's so sweet." Suddenly, the two of them started chatting amiably. I felt as though I was being left out. However, after chatting for a while, Wayne soon returned to the bedroom. I led Janet to the living room and made some coffee. While I was doing that, Janet, sitting on the living room sofa, looked around the house as if inspecting everything. "You really have a nice house. The furniture must be expensive, right?" "Well, not really," I responded modestly. In truth, most of the furnishings here were bought by me. Since Wayne didn't bring much of anything when we got married, I gradually bought these things over the 3 years since I started working. Regardless, Janet didn't care about such details and kept throwing questions at me. Most of them were about the relationship between me and my husband. Considering the current situation, I had trouble answering and had to evade the questions as best as I could. After about 3 hours of being grilled with questions, Janet finally said goodbye to Wayne and left our house. After she left, it felt like the storm had passed. That night, Wayne suddenly said he was going out and left the house. He didn't return for a week. I thought about it while at work. If he doesn't come back today, maybe I'll give him a call. We had been distant, so I had left things be, but now I was really worried. Thinking this, I hurried home after work. When I got there, I felt the house was more spacious than usual. Looking around, I noticed that many household items were gone. I thought maybe we had been burgled when Janet called me. Hello? Are you worried because your husband left? Actually, he has been with me this whole week. What? What do you mean? I remembered Janet had been oddly curious about my relationship with Wayne. Thinking this might be related, I asked. You don't mean you're living together, are you? Yes, of course. I just had the household items Wayne was using moved to my new place today. What? Those household items are all mine. Please return them. Anyway, tell me where you are right now. I was worried about Wayne, but I was more upset that my belongings had been taken without my permission. What nonsense are you talking about? You were being supported, so there's no way you could afford all that stuff on your own. Really putting on a brave face, aren't you? Janet scoffed. This woman seems to know nothing. That I was the one supporting him. You don't understand anything. There's nothing of Wayne's among those things. I just want my own stuff back. You're just making a clumsy excuse to get Wayne back, aren't you? If you want to be with him that badly, feel free to come. I'll hire you and make you work hard at my place, so if you don't mind being a slave, I'll give you the new address. How much can this woman misunderstand and get carried away all by herself? There's no point in arguing any further, so I might as well hint at the truth soon. Then it's fine to divorce your unemployed husband. I'm busy with work, so you take care of him from now on. You, who doesn't even know what happened to Wayne's company, are such an ignorant person. Still talking tough, huh? You loser. Janet is still misunderstanding, but she'll understand eventually. That she has now made the wrong choice. I responded with a nonchalant, okay, and hung up the phone. Anyway, I decided to divorce Wayne since he kept quiet about being unemployed. And even cheated on me. However, fighting Wayne and his associates alone seems disadvantageous. So, I decided to seek help from someone reliable and called my aunt. Although she has never married, my aunt has overcome numerous troubles with men and has resolved issues between other couples. That's why she is incredibly reliable at a time like this. I explained the situation in detail over the phone. Then, my aunt gave me some sound advice. If it has come to this, you have no choice but to divorce. But first, you need solid proof that Wayne cheated. It would be better to hire a private investigator to gather evidence. Having a formal investigation report will help you in claiming compensation. As expected of my aunt, I immediately started taking action as advised. Even though I said I needed evidence of infidelity, I didn't know where they were living, so I first hired a detective. Soon, their address was identified. Thanks to meticulous surveillance, dozens of photos proving the affair were taken. Moreover, another shocking truth was uncovered. The detective following Janet discovered not Wayne, but other men she was meeting secretly. And not just one or two, but several wealthy-looking men. Evidence photos of these meetings were also thoroughly documented. I wonder when Janet, who was so earnest during our school days, became such a woman with a bad track record with men. Perhaps it started when she became a working adult. I shared these facts with my aunt. My aunt, who had adored me since I was little, knew Janet from our high school days. My aunt also wondered why Janet had changed and pondered. Maybe there was a trigger for her change? Perhaps she got involved with the wrong people. Hearing this from my aunt, I remembered something. I heard that the company Janet joined as a new graduate was quite a toxic company. Maybe that company has something to do with it. I also seem to recall something about a boss. She quit soon after. So I never heard the company name. My aunt nodded in agreement to this conversation. From her many years of life experience, she seemed to have an insight and looked as if to say, "Ah, that makes sense. I think I have a rough idea. Since we've gathered evidence of her infidelity and her bad behavior, let's move on to the next plan." Then, together with my aunt, I stormed into Janet's new home. Of course, without an appointment. Janet and Wayne showed surprised expressions when we suddenly arrived. "Gina, how did you find this place? Oh? Did you think I would just cry myself to sleep? I've had your current situation thoroughly investigated." Saying that, I smirked and scattered photos taken by the detective in front of Janet. These included pictures of Janet and Wayne leaving this house arm in arm. And others where they are embracing each other passionately. No, that's not all. There are countless photos of Janet coming out of hotels with various unknown men. Seeing these photos, Wayne grabbed one and turned pale. "What is this? Janet, how many men have you been with? Was it a lie when you said you loved only me? Misunderstanding. This must be some mistake. Gina. Just because you're angry with me, creating fake photos is dishonest." Janet faltered and defensively accused me in desperation. The numerous photos clearly show scenes of men and women getting along intimately. Does she think someone like me, not a professional, could create such fake images? All these photos were taken by a detective I hired. From the investigation, it turns out that you've been chasing wealthy men for over 20 years since you started working. When I said this, Wayne glared at Janet. Is that true? Am I just one of them? I almost burst out laughing at that remark. Even though he is now just an unemployed man who has lost his job. Janet remained silent, looking down. Watching her, my aunt spoke up. It's hard to reply when you're asked such a thing, right? The reason you started to be swayed by rich men is because of a person like Wayne. Am I right? Janet looked surprised as if wanting to ask, "Why do you know that?" When a male voice was heard from the entrance. "Is anyone there? Why call me here all of a sudden?" It was the father-in-law. In fact, I had sent him an email the night before saying, "Wayne is cheating, so we need to talk. Please come here tomorrow." The father-in-law seemed indifferent about Wayne's infidelity. However, I had also mentioned that there might be a discussion about divorce. So I wanted him to be present. The father-in-law, surveying the situation, looked at Janet and was visibly shocked. "Janet. Why are you here?" Wayne looked puzzled by his father's surprise. "Dad, do you know Janet?" "No. I don't know her." As he hurriedly shook his head trying to deceive, my aunt laughed through her nose and asked. "Mr. Owen, former president of Owen Corporation. About 20 years ago. It was known you divorced your wife because of an affair with a new female employee. Wasn't that woman here, Janet?" The father-in-law turned pale and kept shaking his head repeatedly. However, Janet, who had been silent until now, suddenly displayed a sinister smirk. "Yes. This man is my former boss who played with my feelings and then discarded me. Because of him, I was fired from my company and had trouble finding a new job. That's why I wanted to find a wealthy man and make myself happy." "I see. So you approached several wealthy men? But what about Wayne?" He's married and, moreover, the husband of your best friend. What was the point of getting close to him? Indeed, she was right. I hadn't done anything to earn Janet's resentment. Then Janet answered my aunt's question. When I heard Gina was getting married, I planned to attend the wedding because we were best friends. But when I heard the name of the company he worked for, it was the same company that fired me. When I heard that, I wanted to someday get revenge on the president. So I thought I'd ruin Wayne's life, who was the successor. So that's why you didn't attend the wedding. Knowing the truth about Janet made me feel conflicted. Though I was angry, Janet was struggling with her dark past. She continued to tell her story with a grim expression. Yes. And I was jealous of Gina, who managed to marry a rich man despite everything. So, I didn't care what happened to you, I just wanted to mess up Wayne. If a scandal surrounds the president's successor, the company would be finished. Trying to make Janet see how misguided she was, I told her something she didn't understand. Janet. You didn't understand anything. There was no need for you to do such pointless things. This family had already hit rock bottom without your intervention. Hearing this, Janet, who had been unaware of Wayne and his father's current situation, looked surprised and said, "What?" Then, looking at Wayne, I said with a disgusted expression, "Wayne, you managed to hide the fact that you were unemployed for quite some time. With no money, how have you been living?" Gina. You knew that our company had gone bankrupt? My aunt and I almost burst out laughing. It had been all over the news, there was no way he could not know. The only one unaware of the bankruptcy news was Janet, who had no interest in such things. As Wayne had lost his job and become disconnected from all lifelines like internet and television, he hadn't realized his company was being discussed everywhere. Janet was stunned by the reality of the situation. What? So what have I been doing all this time? As she spoke in a daze, she then glared at Wayne. Wayne. Why didn't you tell me the company had collapsed? That's why you kept selling the household items you brought over, isn't it? What? Wayne had been selling the household items I had bought with my earnings. Some of those were my favorite pieces of furniture. Despite nonchalantly taking others' belongings, Wayne unabashedly said, "Well, I had no money, so it couldn't be helped. Besides, I was surprised Gina had managed to buy such expensive items. What kind of job were you doing to earn so much?" My anger towards Wayne reached its peak, and I blurted out about the work I had been doing. I've been working hard as a full-time employee at Thompson Trading Company, owned by my aunt, since you stopped contributing to the household expenses. I was given a responsible position, and I've been properly paid. So, I haven't had any trouble, even without your financial support. Wayne was surprised when he heard the name of my aunt's company. Thompson Trading Company? Isn't that one of the leading clothing manufacturers in this region? Thompson Trading Company was a company founded by my maternal grandfather. Since my mother, the eldest daughter, had married and moved away, my aunt, the second daughter, took over the company. Thompson is my mother's maiden name, so it seems he hadn't realized it was my relative's company. Yes. Someone called me a loser. While saying this, I shifted my gaze to Janet and continued more assertively. I became the executive director at Thompson Trading Company thanks to my years of experience working in a clothing store, earning $3,000 a month. So, for the past few years, I've been the one supporting our household finances. Janet. Janet and Wayne remained silent, unable to respond. Then, the father-in-law looked at the aunt with a face that seemed eager to say something. Speaking of Thompson Trading Company, we used to do business with them back in the day. My father was close friends with the previous president. Yes. That's why 20 years ago, when you just became president and your issues with women surfaced, the previous president decided to stop doing business with your company. Losing business with Thompson Trading Company surely began the decline in the management of the father-in-law's company back then. Perhaps that's why the aunt had a hunch when she heard Janet's story. My aunt had considered hiring the woman who was fired because of the president, but had heard she repeatedly behaved improperly and decided against it. Thompson Trading Company prioritizes trust from its clients, so they deemed it unwise to employ someone who could cause problems. The father-in-law, with a look of remorse, said to the aunt, "I had no idea you were the successor to Thompson Trading Company at that time. I am truly sorry for the inconvenience we caused." No. I knew that President Owen would be attending Gina's wedding, so I attended as just her aunt and kept the company matters to myself. Gina and I have different last names, and I thought it wouldn't be discovered as long as I didn't say anything. Fortunately, you hardly remembered my face. After conveying this, the aunt looked away from the father-in-law. They no longer had any business dealings, and she probably sensed that their familial relationship would end as well. The father-in-law, seeing the aunt's demeanor, chose not to say anything more. Now, it was my turn. I felt a bit sympathetic towards Janet, who had unwittingly fallen in love with Wayne and faced undue distress. However, I could not forgive her, regardless of the circumstances. She had an affair with my husband and even took our belongings without permission. Janet. Regardless of the circumstances, I will be filing for compensation for the affair and for the household items you and Wayne took. With those firm words, Janet's face contorted as if she had bitten into something bitter. I was deceived by Wayne too. And he was the one who took and sold the household items. So, it has nothing to do with me. In fact, I should be the one asking for compensation for being deceived by Wayne. What? I wasn't intending to deceive anyone. I just found it hard to bring up that the company had collapsed. And you used me to get back at my father. If anyone was deceived, it was me. As they argued back and forth, blaming each other, the aunt stepped in between them. All right. Enough with this ugly quarreling. Whatever the reason, Janet, what you did was clearly an act of adultery. You both owe Gina compensation. And Wayne, since you took Gina's belongings without permission, you need to reimburse her for those as well. It was like a mother settling a dispute between children. I might have just been overwhelmed by these two if my aunt weren't there. So I was really glad she was. The two of them, resigning themselves, hung their heads as if about to cry. Damn it. How can I compete when Gina has such a strong ally? How am I supposed to pay now that I'm unemployed? I don't have any money either. As they lamented, it seemed we could finally resolve the situation. I decided to make Janet and Wayne pay compensation, and have Wayne reimburse for the household items. Then, my divorce with Wayne was finalized. We sold the house we lived in, and the proceeds were divided between us. For the time being, I decided to stay with my aunt. Thank you, Aunt. I might not have been able to resolve this alone. You have always been so supportive and dependable since I was young. Oh, don't make me out to be some kind of hero. I'm just a frail woman, after all. We laughed together, facing each other. Finally, peace had returned to my life. After the divorce, Wayne decided to live with his father. Despite everything, he is still his father, and Wayne felt he should take care of him, though he might just be relying on his parent. Nevertheless, Wayne claimed he would support his father and attempted to start a business. However, things do not always go as planned. Unfortunately, his business failed, and both he and his father ended up in debt. This information had been the talk of our company, and it also reached my ears. In fact, many former employees of Wayne's father's company have joined our company. It seems that someone living nearby, who works for us, is spreading the news about Wayne and his family's current situation. As for Janet, she originally didn't have a stable job, so she couldn't pay the rent for the apartment she was trying to live in with Wayne, and had to move back to her parents' house. However, her parents, who run a farm, scolded Janet, who had been frivolously enjoying her life for years. Janet had always disliked helping with the farm work, but her parents forced her to start working on the farm. She can't escape because she is constantly under her parents' watchful eyes. Furthermore, knowing how troublesome Janet's relationships with men had been, her parents even forbade her from dating. They plan to arrange a marriage for her with someone who will continue the farming. I heard this information about Janet from my aunt. In fact, Janet's parents, who are well known in the area, came to my aunt to ask her to help find a suitable match for an arranged marriage. That's when her parents told my aunt all about Janet's recent situation. To spare her parents from sadness, my aunt has kept secret the fact that Janet tried to steal Wayne from me. My aunt has decided to step down from the presidency of the company and has named me as her successor. Although she will step back from day-to-day operations, she will continue to oversee my work as the chairperson. I intend to continue developing this company she has entrusted to me. As someone with a busy life and no romantic relationships, it seems unlikely that I will fulfill my dream of having children. Instead, I am currently focusing on developing new children's clothing lines by interacting with customers and their families as if they were my own, and providing them with products they love. I hope to bring smiles to many children and their parents. This dedication to my work is the bridge to my dreams.